Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and whether you want to or not, we are talking about money in today's episode because not only do we have someone who really understands how to optimize investment portfolios, which we should all be interested in because it's very important for our futures, but also this is an amazing entrepreneur who has brought a solution to the marketplace that combines technology, his fundamental understanding of finance. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. His name is Eugene Yashin. Eugene founded his company Holistico to help individuals with their personal investments. Being a professional advisor and money manager for 2 decades, Eugene has been helping investors grow their portfolios and avoid emotional mistakes. And that's the fun part, is when we talk about money, it's not all black and white. We've got to talk about the emotion that comes with it. Eugene specializes in quantitative investment research and portfolio management for his advisory firm, Signet Financial Management. We're going to learn so much from him today. I'm really excited, not only from the finance perspective, but also to hear how it influences the way that his executive, his founder, his entrepreneurial mind works. So we're all in for a treat today. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Eugene Yashin. All right, Eugene, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Heck yes, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff that we get to talk about today. But before we get to all those things, take us beyond the bio. Who's Eugene? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Well, I started almost more than 20 years ago to work in the money management world. Then I switched into the combination of money management and advisory world. Broke on my own, founded the firm Signet, which manages more than $1 billion right now. And during my 20-year career, I actually worked and talked to a whole bunch of individual investors, institutional investors, money managers, and always did my own strategies. So I not only worked with clients on their goals, aspirations, and financial planning, but I also ran the individual equity strategies we would invest our clients in. So this has been a great run. We always also created our own systems, and our own systems were based on classic multi-factor fundamental analysis. We took every company, every investment we would make through, and that system became the base for Holistico. And we obviously looked at a whole bunch of different systems which help advisors, which help individual investors, and we saw a whole bunch of drawbacks. That's why when we were working on our system, as soon as AI came along, we realized we have this great opportunity of actually dissecting and translating very complex financial models and concepts into simple English. And that's why we created Holistico, and now it helps not only individual investors, but also our advisors in our practice to work with clients and prospects.
Yeah, I love that overview, Eugene, especially because it's really cool how you're someone who you identify, hey, there could be a better solution here, and you go forth and do it, not just with your advisory firm, which over $1 billion in assets is incredible, but also in Holistico, bringing that solution to the marketplace. Where I really want to start with all of that work is, of course, all of your stuff has to deal with money. And Eugene, you don't just work with entrepreneurs and business owners, you work with people from all walks of life. But here on this podcast, we obviously talk to an entrepreneurial audience. And Eugene, I would argue we don't talk about money often enough. What's the deal with money conversations in this country and in the world? Why do so many people avoid it? And how do you navigate those conversations with them?
That's actually a very good question, Brian, because in this country, the money, the investing, the saving has been going through a huge transformation. So initially, like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, if you went and worked for General Motors, you would have a pension. And upon retirement, you could count on the pension and pretty much live in retirement thereafter. Now, pretty much nobody has pensions. So, and Social Security looks very vulnerable as well. So, individual Americans will face this challenge. They're already facing this challenge with Social Security being funded only by 70%. Like I get my emails from Social Security Administration, and my pension, my Social Security is already going to be probably funded by 70%. So imagine those people who are younger, they will not probably count on Social Security. And a lot of things is changing, and entrepreneurs and individuals in the United States will actually have to fund their own pension, their own retirement. And with that comes huge responsibility of starting earlier than later and actually choosing the right investments and make the right choices much earlier in your career than people used to. And that's why we created Holistico, because we actually see a lot of instruments in this world. And entrepreneurs actually, when they start doing their businesses, they also get tagged or we are bombarded by all the advertisement of software or tools which will make you rich instantly or within few days without you really understanding the concepts of investing. And those tools are actually very misleading. And I know a lot of people who got caught by this, and that's why we're trying to actually introduce all this long-term investing, kind of boring concepts to individual investors, entrepreneurs alike. And those boring concepts do not need to be boring. They're actually not boring if you realize that they will make you money in the long run, and you will be much more better off than following the instant gratification mantra of the majority of tools available. And it's kind of symbolic that yesterday, this weekend, Warren Buffett announced that he was retiring from the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. It's the symbol of long-term investing in the United States, and I have huge respect for Warren Buffett. And we, with our philosophy, follow pretty much the same long-term philosophy, and it's very different from what people are used to. And right now, for example, I'll give you an example. I have a lot of people coming to me, and they hold Magnificent Seven. Those companies like Meta, Google, Apple, Microsoft, which are phenomenal businesses and phenomenal companies. But what people sometimes forget is the fact that there was a lost decade from 2000 through 2010, where all these promising .com, and internet companies from the late 90s actually went flat for 10 years. And the only company which was promising at the time, Microsoft, was beating the market by 2012. So what people tend to forget and kind of extrapolate the recent experiences is that they think that, well, since I was making money in NVIDIA for the last 3 years, I will continue doing so. See, and we got a lot of clients and prospects with that in that situation. And what they don't want to hear, what I kind of try to tell them is, while this is great, you made the money. Sometimes those things, not sometimes, those things are cyclical. So the fact that those Magnificent Seven were outperforming the market in the last 10 years is not gonna actually we will not extrapolate this trend. So we will actually most likely have a period of time where they will be lagging the market. And you want to diversify yourself. You want to prepare yourself and make your portfolio making money in the long run. So those are very important things we're trying to teach through Holistico. And we also created the Holly, which is, our full investment cycle co-pilot, which our individual investors use and our advisor subscribers use as well. And Holly, even if you come with your, existing portfolio, and you ask Holly, what do I do to improve my portfolio? What do I do to make the risk, to reduce the risk? What do I do to improve the long-term prospects of performance? Holly will tell you and will give you in a plain English a whole bunch of very good suggestions you can implement.
Yeah, Eugene, I'll tell you what, hearing the way you talk about these things, it really is. You use the word fundamentals, and it seems so fundamentally sound. I was a finance major in undergraduate, and I remember that back then we had to actually go to the SEC's website. We had to pull companies' annual filings and quarterly filings, and we had to look at these things, whereas I would imagine for you in today's day and age, you love where we are. Things have never been more accessible for everyday people, and I love that you've piled so many of those tools into Holistico, and you keep saying, and I love how much you reiterate it, in plain English. We don't have to understand PE ratios anymore. We don't have to understand all the different ratio analysis that we used to do. Talk to us about that, because I would imagine with your financial background, that's both a plus, but also a little bit of a drawback, that we don't have that same fundamental analysis and understanding today.
Well, when we on the background, we do a lot of this financial analysis. We look at the PEs. We look at a lot of this stuff, valuation, growth, safety, profitability, technical aspects of things. But with Holly, with the AI, what we were able to achieve, we were able to actually train Holly and to make sure that she doesn't just go into the world, but actually understands our database, understands our philosophy and our processes, and would give the answers like any advisor would give using our quant database. What's even more interesting is we showed our work to Google, and Google got interested so much that they decided to help us, and they're giving us their cloud, and they're also working with us to see if we could implement Gemini, at least in some instances of AI. And we met with with the team from Google multiple times, and now we're working on that. And what's really exciting in our world right now, we see, and not only that we can actually train Holly to interpret the quant information. We're going the step forward, and Google is actually asking us to try to do that, to actually see if we could use AI for forecasting, or it's the portion of forecasting, and for analyzing like you mentioned, the financial reporting of the companies, the differences in even demeanor of quarterly calls of CEOs, etc. So with AI, we actually have all this opportunity, and with Google as well, because Google is willing to provide us with their proprietary data as well. So we're super excited about actually implementing all of those things and providing our users not only with the interpretation of the complex financial and economic concepts, but also to actually benefit from things we as humans would be less efficient to discover. For example, I'll give you one example. We had a project with Duke University when we looked at the quality of earning calls for biotech sector. And the professors from the university were working actually on looking and comparing the tonality of CEOs' voices on earning calls, on quarterly earning calls, and they were comparing them to see if the CEOs were not sure, the demeanor was going down, or they were plainly lying. And the results from that were already telling, and that was a few years ago. That was before AI. So now with AI, we have this opportunity of actually discovering a lot of things people probably don't want to reveal, if you want, if I may say so.
Eugene, it's really cool hearing you say that, because I've noticed this trend in some industries where we're at this really interesting point in the future and in history, where a lot of people, we kind of have two camps, where some are saying, oh, we don't use AI, and they pride themselves on not using AI, whereas me as a customer, I'm just like, if you're not using AI, you're missing out on competitive advantages. And Eugene, here you are talking about the finance world, which a lot of times we pretend it's so black and white. It's balance sheets and income statements, but you're saying, no, there's a lot that can reveal. You talk about CEOs' body language and their tones in their earnings calls. Like, that's stuff that having advanced AI interpret for us to take that emotion out of it, that's powerful. That's a big competitive advantage. And so I really love the way that you think about that. I would imagine it reveals a lot about not just your financial mind, but also your entrepreneurial and founder mind. You've been an entrepreneur for quite some time now. Talk to us about that willingness to just adapt. And you seem early in your market, Eugene. I love that about your attitude. What has that attitude brought to Holistico? What has it brought to your clients? How has that played into the way you make decisions?
No, absolutely. I mean, we brainstorm a lot. And even before Holistico, when I worked with my quant team, I never pressed them or pressured them into the results. And I have a few friends who work on Wall Street, and they're actually in a totally opposite camp, where they're pressured from quarter to quarter to show the results. And that just kills sometimes the true long-term innovation. So my team, we brainstorm things. And during one of the brainstorming sessions, we decided to look at the compliance, and we created the module, which is bigger advisory organizations, to actually preemptively see where they might have potential compliance problems. And one of the examples would be, you have a whole bunch of clients whose allocation, let's say 60-40, 60 in equity, 40 in fixed income, start drifting apart because the stock market is doing great. And you need to bring that back. And sometimes, advisors get caught in things and forget. And our compliance module, the way that we brainstorm, actually identified those potential issues and violations with SEC. And right now we are offering that as well. The other thing is talking about really brainstorming and seeing how we can put AI, like Google is asking us, put AI in front of everything, right? Well, a great example would be backtesting. So a lot of do-it-yourselfers, investors, they would do a lot of backtesting, checking if certain concepts would work. What we're trying to do in Holistico is actually say, you know what, we'll put AI in plain English. And you don't have to put this complex formulas, usually the backtesting involves. You can just dictate to your co-pilot saying, Holly, please see if choosing 10 top percent of stable paying dividend companies with growing sales and great profitability would make sense in the long run. And boom, in seconds you get the results that, your idea or thesis has been working or not in the last 20, 30 years. I think that's very powerful.
Yeah,
right?
it's so cool, Eugene. I will say, hearing you talk about this, I feel like it's missing a lot in entrepreneurial circles. Is that you use General Motors as the example. A long time ago, people would have pensions. And then even in today's day and age, a lot of people have 401ks. But specifically speaking now to the entrepreneurial audience, a lot of people miss out on that wealth building. And that's something that's so clear to me about Holistico's messaging in the marketplace is you believe in wealth building. It's wealth. It's not getting rich. It's building wealth. And then it's also the building part, that verb of this is a thing that we can do and that we can work on. Eugene, as a fellow entrepreneur, I'd love to invite you to talk directly to our entrepreneurial audience. What should wealth building look like for entrepreneurs, for business owners who are thinking to themselves, I don't have a traditional retirement account. How should they be focused on wealth building?
I have a lot of friends, Brian, who are entrepreneurs, and as entrepreneurs, sometimes they reinvest the wealth they create into new ventures, and that's the ultimate entrepreneur, right? Because you actually want, you've got all these ideas boiling in your head, and you just go and once you make money in enterprise in your first startup, you are reinvesting in the second startup, you're reinvesting in third startup, and this is all great and dandy. But as we all know, as entrepreneur myself, there are a lot of risks involved. And what sometimes my fellow entrepreneurs and my friends um, miss is the fact that you need to stash away a little bit and invest in the long-term U.S. economy and the global economy. And when they realize that they've been, very successful um, in their businesses, they bear an enormous still an amount of risk, right? Because let's say you're a baker, and Panera Bread opens up next door, and you kind of screwed. But you've been doing great, but you never realized how much of a risk was involved in just concentrating and relying on the bakery. And I have a lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs, and I convince them to actually start financial planning, stashing away a little bit of the riches they produce in their ventures. And it worked really well. I have a couple who kept asking me, Eugene, where are millions? Like kind of mocking me. Well, now I just ask them to look at their statement. And that's because when you start doing that and you are disciplined about the process, you build up fairly quickly. And compounding, as we all know, is a very, very important concept and is a very strong thing. And you need, as an entrepreneur especially, you need to focus on your business, but you also need to make sure a little bit of a small portion of the wealth you create is being diversified away.
Yeah,
Right?
so well said. Important considerations, whether we want to hear it or not today, Eugene. That's why we brought you here on the air. And while I've got you here, I have to ask you this question publicly because knowing your background and knowing that you have your advisory firm, but also knowing this incredible product that you've built through Holistico, are you putting financial advisors and portfolio managers out of business? Because when I look at Holistico and I see for $24 a month, I can leverage all the powers of all the things we've talked about today. What's the future of your market look like?
Well, Brian, we are actually catering not just to individual investors, but also to advisors. And we have subscription available for small advisors or big advisory houses as well. I don't think we're putting advisors out of business because um, a lot of people are not sure. A lot of people still need help. And even if they start, sometimes we have a lot of clients in our practice who came to us starting as do-it-yourselfers, and actually were very successful investors on their own. But sometimes you get either tired of it or you get busy with some other things you have to do, have to deal in your life. And even with, like you said, a very affordable solution which can give you a whole bunch of answers, sometimes you want to rely on that human support as well as you proceed. It's like almost like, to give you an analogy, is like you start as a small investor or you start as a young professional and you rely on TurboTax, right? And then you kind of proceed into much more complex situations where you get, your business is bought and sold, ownership changed, and so on and so forth. And then you realize you need a much more complex help, and you turn to CPAs. So that's kind of the same way we'll look at our thing. We actually in Holistico we have a feature which says if you're doing it on your own, but if you are not sure or you want to run this by a human advisor, there is an option actually to share your information and your thinking with an advisor as well.
That is very cool. I love the way you navigated that. I know that it's not the easiest question that I tossed to you in real time, but you navigated it beautifully. And I think it's really important. Even when you said that, I thought about even generational differences. My parents would totally not be on board with AI guiding them through this. They love that human aspect. Whereas for myself as a millennial, yeah, give me all the technology, give me all the tools for me to explore it and navigate it. Obviously, I majored in finance. And so I know enough to be dangerous, Eugene, but also to have your solution help guide me. So I really appreciate that. Now I want to ask you this final question, not with your finance hat on, but with your entrepreneurial hat on. I ask it at the end of every episode, and that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and also knowing that you're one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur, what's that one piece of advice that you want to leave them with today?
I want to say, like, follow your passion, follow what you're really good at, and most importantly, enjoy what you're doing, right? So you want, like, as an entrepreneur, you already, or you want to be an entrepreneur, you already took a step into your kind of independence, right? You're doing something you're passionate about. I think that's the most important part. I think people are actually much happier if they do what they like and what they're good at and what they're passionate about. So keep that passion going.
Yes, I love that advice. And Eugene, I'll publicly praise you, because what really stands out for me in our conversation today, and even beforehand, doing all the research on you that I've done, is that having your own advisory firm, you didn't have to start Holistico. You didn't have to build such an incredible product, but clearly your passion is on display. It's been on display throughout today's episode and conversation. It's so clear to me that you believe that everyone should have access to these wealth building tools. And I really appreciate how much time, effort, money, resources, all of that you've poured into the development of this, because it's something that brings your world-class services and knowledge to so many more people. So huge kudos to you with those passions. And I also know that people will want to check out Holistico's website, your proprietary tool, Holly, and have it unleashed in their own portfolio. So drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Sure. The website is very simple, holisticoinvest.com. And you start from there. You can upload your statements through just a PDF drop, or you can connect your financial institutions where you have your accounts through Plod, and just play with it. I mean, we have free version. We have the version where, like you said, we charge $24 a month. If you want all the sophistication and you have a whole bunch of accounts, it's a little more expensive. It's like $34 a month, but it's still nothing in comparison to what others charge. And for advisors, again, we have very great solutions. Again, it's the same. You start from the same holisticoinvest.com and you just proceed.
Yes, I love that. You make it so easy. You talk about even the PDF upload. That sounds like the easiest and simplest way to start. And the fact that you also integrate with investment accounts through Plod. Obviously, a lot of us Plod, we all use that for our own banking. So many institutions have access to that. So huge kudos to you and your team for making it so accessible. Listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Super easy to remember. Holisticoinvest.com. You don't have to remember it. Click right on through. Otherwise, Eugene, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, spasibo. Thanks for coming here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.